Democrats have officially dropped paid family and medical leave from the budget reconciliation bill. Remember, the initial proposal in Joe Biden's Build Back Better agenda was 12 weeks of paid family leave. That was later whittled down to a measly 4 weeks. And we can't even get 4 weeks because our precious corporate Senator Joe Manchin, is not willing to vote in favor of a reconciliation bill that includes even 4 weeks of paid family leave. The United States happens to be the only developed wealthy country that refuses to provide paid family leave for its constituents, for its citizens. And it gives you a sense of just how much our lawmakers are beholden to corporate interests as opposed to the best interests of their own constituents. Now, there's also some other news to share with you today because there's a reason why that happened. Just one day after we told you that Democrats would not, under any circumstance, pass a tax on billionaires on their unrealized gains, turns out that that tax proposal in the budget reconciliation bill has been dropped. Now, prior to this news, which broke later in the day, there was some waffling from Senator Joe Manchin, who seemed to think that, we're being a little mean here. We're being a little unfair to these poor billionaires. In fact, Axios had reported earlier, scoop, Manchin waffles on billionaire tax. And when Manu Raju of CNN caught up with him, here's what Manchin had to say.
So are you supportive of the billionaires tax? Are you supporting the billionaires tax?
I'm supporting basically that everyone should pay their fair share. And I've just tried to think of it. I don't like it. I don't like the connotation that we're targeting different people. There's people that basically they've contributed to society, they've created a lot of jobs and invested a lot of money and give a lot to philanthropic pursuits. But it's time that we all pull together and row together.
You heard it. I mean, he's out of his own mouth. He thinks it's unfair. I don't like it. I don't like targeting billionaires who don't pay their taxes. They decide to avoid selling any of their stocks. Remember, this was a proposal to tax unrealized gains of billionaires in the stock market. It would only impact individuals who are literally billionaires, okay? So their assets are over $1 billion. The way that they skirt taxes is they never sell their stocks, okay? Instead, what they do is they use the amount of money they have invested in the stock market as collateral to be approved for various loans, and they live off those loans. That is a way to avoid paying taxes. Now, the proposal was meant to specifically target billionaires who engage in that practice to ensure that they're contributing something to the society that allowed them to become so tremendously wealthy. But you heard it here. You heard it right out of Senator Manchin's mouth. He's not gonna have it. He doesn't like it. It's so unfair. I mean, it's not unfair to all the American workers who have dealt with stagnant wages since the 1970s. He's not worried about how unfair he might be to everyone living in this country and this planet because of the fossil fuel industry polluting it to the point where climate change is not just some far away, distant threat. It is a threat today. People are suffering the consequences of it today. But hey, Joe Manchin doesn't want to pay more in taxes himself, let's keep it real. Joe Manchin doesn't want to target those poor billionaires. And he certainly doesn't want to touch the fossil fuel industry, especially the coal industry, which he himself profits off of handsomely. So let me give you some more details. So it's really interesting that Manchin is now saying that he's against the billionaire tax. It's been cut out of the bill, right? It was proposed just yesterday, now it's cut out of the bill. Now this is different from the 15% minimum corporate tax. So for corporations who report to their shareholders profits of $1 billion or more, they are supposed to pay, if this provision passes, a minimum 15% tax on that money. Okay, and this is essentially a way to mitigate the fact that the effective corporate tax rate is so low in this country thanks to corporate tax loopholes that oftentimes some of the most successful, some of the most lucrative corporations and companies pay nothing in taxes. They get to take advantage of those loopholes and deductions, they pay nothing. Now that minimum 15% corporate tax, as it stands today, it seems like both Manchin and Sinema will vote in favor of it. But we're talking about something completely different here. We're talking about the tax dodgers who have all their assets parked in the stock market. They intentionally avoid selling those stocks so they don't have to pay taxes on it. And then they live off loans that they get qualified for thanks to the assets they hold in the stock market. Okay, again, Manchin is against it. Now it is fascinating though, because when Manchin is confronted by protesters, when Manchin is confronted by his own constituents, he seems to have a little bit of a different message. Let's watch.
Tax the rich.
Well, I agree with that.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. Manchin agrees with that as he sits aboard his yacht, speaking down at the protesters and West Virginia constituents who are demanding that he actually represent their best interest. I mean, he'll pay them lip service. He'll tell them that he believes that billionaires should pay their fair share. Until push comes to shove and he has an opportunity to vote in favor of that provision in the budget reconciliation bill, then all of a sudden, no, I mean, it's unfair. It's so unfair to the poor billionaires. Those poor billionaires. You know, the ones who hoard the wealth, the ones who Americans have been told time and time again provide jobs. They're the ones who are gonna provide higher wages, except they don't do that, as stagnant wages since the 1970s will show you. Manchin's potential opposition, now complete opposition, let's just be clear, to the billionaire tax proposal would blow a $200 billion to $250 billion hole in the Democrats' plan for new revenues. That means that major provisions are gonna be cut. And to be sure, some major provisions have been cut. The one thing that's kind of on the precipice of getting cut, it hasn't happened yet, but my prediction is it will happen, is the expansion to Medicare, something that Senator Bernie Sanders, the head of the Budget Committee in the Senate, says he is unwilling to do away with. We'll see. But Manchin has already expressed some opposition to it. Let's watch.
Senator Sanders has said that Medicare expansion is not going to come out of this bill. Do you still disagree with that?
Okay. Let me just say about the expansions, and we're negotiating and talking about that. I am truly, absolutely concerned about the deficit of our country at almost $29 trillion. I'm concerned about the insolvency of the trust funds. In good conscience, I have a hard time increasing basically benefits, which all of us can agree that, hell, I'd love to have this, love to have that, when you can't even take care of what you have.
He's worried, guys. He's worried about the financial health of this country. He's concerned about the debt. He's concerned about how much money we're spending. I mean, an easy way to reverse some of the damage that's been done over the last several decades would be to ensure that we have wealthy people pay their fair share, that we have corporations pay their fair share. It's interesting because he seemed to be against the Trump era tax cuts for the rich. The tax cuts that cost this country $2 trillion in revenue over 10 years. But he didn't want to reverse it. In fact, he served as a massive obstacle along with Senator Kyrsten Sinema in the passage of that tax increase, of the reversal, just the reversal of the Trump era tax cuts. He was against that. He didn't think that his own view on wealth tax and corporate taxes and billionaire taxes, he didn't see any of that as irresponsible. But when it comes to programs that materially improve your life, when it comes to programs that provide vision, dental, and hearing care to our elderly citizens, that's irresponsible. Can't have it. Can't have it. Because he understands firsthand just how sweet it is to own a yacht. And billionaires might have a yacht or two, but what if they want their third? He gets it. Manchin gets it. It's just that he doesn't understand the plight of Americans living in poverty, including Americans in his own state of West Virginia, which of course is struggling with poverty. But why would he be concerned about that? He's just worried about the poor billionaires. To give you more, Manchin all but killed a proposal to require banks to share more information about customers' accounts with the IRS to help the agency find tax cheats, depriving negotiators of an estimated $200 billion in additional revenues. Tax cheats? Apparently not irresponsible, according to Joe Manchin. Providing dental and vision care to elderly people covered by Medicare? Irresponsible. Super irresponsible. That's who Joe Manchin is. Now, this isn't a discussion about whether Joe Manchin is a good guy or a bad guy. You can make your decision or your judgment on that if you'd like. But what we need to focus on is the systemic issue that's played out time and time again, whether we're talking about the Affordable Care Act or any other issue where you have Democrats dangling policy right in front of us, pretending like they're gonna be warriors for us, and then they immediately fold. They immediately turn around and do right by their corporate donors. Why does that happen? Yes, we have that system of legalized bribery, but we also have lawmakers who are personally invested in the very industries, in the very corporations that don't want to pay higher taxes because they want to increase their profits. If these corporations maximize their profits, what do they get to do with those profits? Corporate stock buybacks, artificially inflate share prices. They also get to pay dividends to their shareholders. And so when you have members of Congress invested in individual stocks, you really think they're gonna bite the hand that feeds? Whether they're Democrats or Republicans, it doesn't matter. If they're personally invested in individual stocks, if they are personally invested in private business ventures, as Joe Manchin is regarding the coal industry, you think they're gonna look out for you? Or are they gonna look out for their bottom line? The way the system is set up with the incentives and disincentives will help you predict what the outcome of any legislation will be. There's a reason why wages in the United States have remained stagnant for decades, since the 1970s. There's a reason why wealth inequality continues to grow in this country regardless of who's sitting in the White House. It happened under Obama, it happened under Trump, and it's continuing to happen under Biden. There's a brief relief with some coronavirus stimulus, but make no mistake about it. What Democrats are doing right now in squandering this opportunity to improve Americans' lives is not just awful for Americans, it's awful for them. Because they can go around and try to do PR, like put out their press releases, do their cutesy little speeches about how this is an unprecedented spending bill. But when Americans see that nearly $2 trillion was spent on the reconciliation bill, but it was so means tested and it was so pared back that they don't actually see a real benefit from it in their personal lives, I would venture to say that Democratic constituents are gonna be a little salty about that. Americans aren't stupid. They know what their personal finances look like. They know what precarity is. They experience it in the workplace on a regular basis. So Democrats might think, hey, looking out for myself, all of these short-term gains for myself, that's way better than doing right by the very people who had voted me in this position of power. But come midterms, come 2024, I don't want to hear any crying from a single damn corporate Democrat who turned their backs on the American people, on their constituents after they turned out to get them either reelected or elected into Congress for the first time. It's pathetic, absolutely pathetic. I want to move on to the issue of paid family leave, because that's absolutely infuriating, especially considering where we were at before and where we are now.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.